in the stillness of early morning. When the world has not yet decided who it will be for the day, a gentle truth rises like mist above a river. The mind does not become steady by accident. It softens, it settles. It returns to itself only through the small choices we make. Again and again, many people believe peace arrives at the final moment of life, like a guest who appears at the door without warning. But the old teachers remind us that peace is not a sudden visitor. It is a companion we must walk with daily, the breath we take with awareness, the step we place with intention, the moments when we pause to look inward. In the monasteries, the elders often say that a mind left unattended behaves like an untied boat. It drifts wherever the current pulls it, toward fear, toward desire, toward confusion. And in times of crisis, the drifting becomes much stronger. On one of his journeys to Rangoon, the thoughtful Thingasar Sayadaw was asked a simple question: is it truly necessary to give up the world, or to live with little? Isn't a clear conscience enough? The Sayadaw listened quietly, the way a mountain listens to the wind, and then he spoke with gentle clarity. Yes, a clear mind is enough. But without daily practice, the mind will not remember its own clarity in a moment of danger. To show this truth, he shared the story of a boatmaster whose life revealed how easily the mind forgets what it once trusted. In a village perched just above a shoreline of jagged stones, there lived a man known as Mr. Thin the boatmaster. The river had carried him through many trading journeys, each one adding to his wealth. His name suggested a man of small appetite, yet his pockets grew heavy with earnings. But the river had a place he feared, a rough stretch where the water twisted violently around sharp rocks. He could not swim, and the thought of those waters followed him everywhere. Even in moments of comfort, his mind circled back to danger. Our quiet nights became restless, meals lost their taste. Worry thinned him more than hunger ever could. One day, in the middle of his unease, he found what he believed was an answer. He bought a large gourd, emptied it carefully, and kept it beneath his bed on the boat. If the worst ever happened, he believed it would hold him up on the water. This simple thought brought him the safety he longed for. His mind relaxed, his body regained its strength. Yet, out of habit or affection, people still called him Mr. Thin. He traveled again and again, trusting the gourd more than his own breath, and though danger still existed, he felt protected. But calm, built on imagination, is as fragile as a leaf resting on a wave. On a day when fortune had favored him greatly, the boatmaster began his return journey. His boat was heavy with goods, his heart light with success. But the river does not measure our joy before it shows its strength. As he approached the dangerous stretch, dark clouds gathered above him. The winds pushed against the boat. The familiar roar of the rapids rose like a warning he had heard many times before. Rain struck the deck in sharp, hurried drops. The river churned, twisting the boat as if it were no more than a leaf. The boatmaster's hand shook on the ropes. His eyes widened as the bow tilted toward the rocks. It was the very moment he had feared through all his years. Yet fear has a way of changing what the mind remembers. The gourd lay under his bed, silent and ready, the object he had trusted for so long. But in the storm's chaos, the boatmaster did not reach for it. Instead, something else called to him. Deep inside his cabin was a bag of gold, earned through many long journeys. Its weight had always given him a sense of pride, a sense of security, stronger than any object of safety. As the boat lurched violently, he ran below deck, not toward protection, but toward the treasure he believed he could not live without. The storm grew louder, shaking the boat until every board groaned. Men shouted directions to one another, struggling to keep the vessel steady in the middle of the confusion. The boatmaster burst from his cabin with the bag of gold held tightly in both hands. "I will take my gold, he cried. His voice cut through the rain like a desperate bell to his men. It sounded like he was speaking of the gourd, the same object he had always trusted. They believed their master was prepared. They believed he would float. When the boat finally tipped and the river swallowed its edge, The crew leapt into the water with confidence. They trusted the boatmaster's old plan. They trusted the memory of the gourd. But the boatmaster held the gold against his chest, as if it were life itself. In his fear, the treasures he had gathered over the years became heavier than the river's pull. He stepped into the water with the weight of all his desires in his arms, and the river, indifferent to fortune or fear, carried him downward in an instant. As news of the boatmaster's fate reached the village, people spoke in quiet tones. They remembered a man who had once feared the river so deeply that he grew thin from worry. Then they remembered how confidence returned to him when he believed in the gourd he kept for safety. And finally, they whispered about the moment when fear rose again, sweeping away every plan he had made. The sailor shared this story, not to judge the boatmaster, but to show how the mind behaves when it is untrained. When calm is not practiced, it becomes fragile. In the quiet of ordinary days, we may think ourselves steady, but in moments of crisis, the mind does not reach for wisdom. It reaches for whatever desire has been fed most often. For the boatmaster, the gourd had once brought comfort, but the gold had become his true attachment, the thought he rehearsed again and again. And so when the river roared and the boat shook, it was not safety he remembered, it was possession. Thus the teacher explained, what we cling to in daily life is what we cling to in our final breath. A mind shaped by fear and craving will return to those paths without hesitation, and one shaped by patience and clarity will seek those instead. After telling the story, the sailor spoke softly, as if placing each word with care. It is true that a clear conscience at the end of life is enough, but the mind cannot be ordered like a servant. It follows the patterns it knows. If we practice each day, even in small ways, the mind learns to return to calm. If we neglect it, the old currents of fear will guide it. The principal listened, realizing that wisdom is less about grand decisions and more about the habits we shape in ordinary moments. The Sayadaw's story was not about rivers or gold. It was about the quiet work of tending the mind, the daily returning, the gentle training that prepares us for whatever storms may come. And so the lesson settled into the room, like a soft bell fading in the air. We do not wait for the final moment to seek clarity. We build it breath by breath, step by step, thought by thought. If this reflection touched your heart, you may walk with this channel a little longer. Simply subscribe and return whenever you seek a calm voice to sit beside your thoughts.